Hello, we are live around the world. It's time for the money news that matters. Ignore the name on there. I'm Ben Bland and this is Talking Business. Let's have a look at the headlines. Our top story, new figures show it was a bumper October for US job creation. American employers added 250,000 new jobs last month in a boost for the Republicans ahead of the midterm elections. We'll hear from one expert who says that a labour shortage is emerging, but workers should enjoy every minute of this and pray that it lasts. Also coming up in the programme, disappointing figures from the e-commerce giant Alibaba fuels fears of a slowdown in China at a time when US tariffs are beginning to bite. We've got the latest from the global markets, a bit of a surge on equities around the world, and the customer is always right, right? That is the motto popularised by the likes of Harry Selfridge, who opened his department store on London's Oxford Street back in 1909. But do customers really know what they want? We'll answer all of that and plenty more on this edition of Talking Business. Hello and a very warm welcome wherever in the world you're watching. We are just a few days away now from the US midterm elections, and figures just out show the US job market is the healthiest that it's been in decades. American employers added 250,000 new positions last month. That is up from September's final figure of 118,000, and it's despite the disruption that was caused by Hurricane Michael. The unemployment rate, well, that held steady at 3.7%. That's the lowest level for almost a decade. The figures are likely to ease fears about the health of the US economy after some weak housing data and a stall in business spending. Average hourly earnings rose by 0.2%. Now, that's a bit slower than in September, but it makes the annual increase in wages 3.1%, and that is the biggest gain workers have seen since 2009. Now, the healthy state of the US labour market could give the US central bank more reason to keep raising interest rates. The Federal Reserve's next rise is forecast for December. Of course, the prospect of higher borrowing costs was a major factor behind the turmoil that we saw in the stock markets in October. Get rid of the cube now. Yeah, they tend to want to put interest rates up because they worry about the economy overheating. If that happens, prices go up, and those wage increases, well, they get negated. Let's get more on this now from our New York bureau. Ed Stringham is there. He's president of the American Institute for Economic Research and Economics, professor at Trinity College in Connecticut. Thanks for waiting while I got your title out there, Ed. So these are pretty good figures then, aren't they?
Oh, it's unbelievably good. I was just walking over to the studio this morning thinking about how great the jobs report are, and I see these roses. I'm like, I've got to stop and smell the roses here. This random guy's like, what are you doing smelling those roses? Things are so bad. They can't get any worse. I'm like, no, this is like lowest unemployment we've seen in the past 50 years. We've been increasing 250,000 jobs, as you mentioned, and wages are up. So this is just a tremendous labor market right now.
Yeah, that said, though, Ed, if unemployment is so low, shouldn't workers be enjoying an even higher rise in wages because companies should be upping the salaries to try and attract people to fill the vacant posts?
Yeah, I mean, that's eventually what we're going to be seeing. So, you know, a 3% increase of wages year over year is pretty good. And the unemployment rate cannot go much lower. As it starts going lower, people are going to have to see this upward pressure on wages, which is actually a sign of increases in productivity. That's good for workers, actually good for companies as well.
How much is this going to help President Trump and his party in the midterms, do you think?
Well, I think one of the things he campaigned on is, you know, improved economic performance. He's been in most ways very pro-business, pro-economic growth, and I think that the results of this are showing. The deregulation of the economy, the lowering of tax rates, I think is actually showing positively. And, you know, there's that old phrase, you know, it's the economy. It's all about the economy. So I'm thinking that a lot of people are going to be more sympathetic than they might have been a couple years ago.
And it's interesting that we're seeing this, oh, Ed has disappeared. We've lost Ed. I was just about to ask him the key $64 million question. We're going to have to wait till next time. Tell you what, let's talk about a $1 trillion company instead.